My name is Akila, and this is the Black Men's Redemption. In this podcast, we talk with real Black men on issues that affect Black men on a whole. Let the healing begin. Welcome back to the Black Men's Redemption. We're here at season 4, episode 2, and our guest for today is my dad, Zuberi Allen. Welcome, Daddy.
Hello, Akila.
So let's just jump straight into it. This topic is about emotional health for Black men. And as we both know, that's a very serious topic. I feel like it's a serious topic because it kind of becomes how we interface both with Black men interface with Black women, with the world, with their children. So that's really one of the reasons I wanted to talk about this topic. So I guess my first question for you is, what do you think that emotional intelligence means? Because that's a word that gets thrown around a lot.
Not thrown around where I come from. Emotional intelligence, I guess, what it means to me is being aware of your emotions, right? Mm-hmm. Being aware of the things that cause you to act the way you act.
Okay.
Yeah, and trying to gain some control over them.
Okay.
Yeah.
So just basically the approach to your emotions has to be in an intelligent manner, a little rational.
Mm-hmm.
So what about emotional regulation? Would that be the same thing?
In a way, I guess it would be to just look inside yourself and see how you have different triggers to trigger different emotions and how you're going to manage it. Mm-hmm. You know, not jump into conclusions, maybe, listening to the other person, what they have to say. A lot of time we tend to react to the first thing, because we feel maybe a bit embarrassed about it or something like that. Yeah.
To me, when I look in society, especially here in Jamaica, a lot of people seem very quick to anger. And I know you're not that type of person. So it's always seemed to me growing up that you always had a good sense of emotional regulation. You sought to understand a situation rather than simply react to it.
Mm-hmm. I would say it's about listening more than anything. Mm-hmm. A lot of time we're quick to respond if somebody say, boy, your eyes are green, and you think green is not a good color for your eyes, and you think it's an insult. Mm-hmm. It's more listening and asking those questions that clarify what the other person is trying to communicate to you, right? Maybe blue eyes mean the greatest thing to them, so it's about asking those questions to get at a more clear understanding of what I'm trying to say to you. I think all of us have times that we find it challenging to kind of control those emotions because all we have different triggers, But for me, it's more listening more than anything, and then making sure you react in a not in a positive way, but in a more calmer way, because you're not um, uh, ruled by emotions in a way, you know? Yeah.
You know, another one of these emotional whatever words that come to mind as well is emotional awareness. Let me first ask you, what do you think about that? These three terms, emotional intelligence, emotional regulation, and emotional awareness. What do you think about emotional awareness and how maybe the three of them interact?
Well, these are some very powerful questions.
Thank you. Thank you.
Um, I'm not sure if I know the answer to that still. I'm not sure. I'm not sure to answer that.
That's okay. I just think that I feel like emotional awareness helps with interpersonal relationships, you know, because it's not everyone that you come across is going to be as calm, able to dissect their own emotions. So sometimes being the bigger person, it falls on you to kind of dissect their emotions, especially when you're dealing with ignorant people and children, because neither of them can seem to regulate their own emotions. But for example, with a child, I mean, the way I look at it is when you're dealing with a child, they're just crying. They don't really know why they're crying. They're just reacting in the moment. So you can say, well, why are you really crying? Are you crying because you're hurt or your feelings are hurt? Are you like trying to communicate with them to get to the root of it? Now, with an adult, you can't really do that because that's going to seem patronizing, and that's going to get them even more upset. But being aware of maybe where another person's emotions come from. To me, emotional awareness, emotional regulation is internal. You're regulating your own emotions. And then emotional awareness is being aware of the emotions around you. And then to me, emotion, both of them fall under the umbrella of emotional intelligence.
Yeah, I agree. But even for a child crying, a lot of time when a most people tend to get angry because a child is crying because they can't control that child, and they want, maybe they're embarrassed because people are looking at them while the child is crying. But I think if them allow children to cry more, there'd be less volatile reaction to certain things when they're adults. You know, I think it's like when you have a good cry, it makes you sleep better. It just release a lot of that pent up energy that you have, right? Um, I think even for a lot of men, when you're growing up, you're told, boy, you know, top nice man, we are about her, yeah, girl, that sort of thing. So it kind of get men into the state of not knowing how to express them emotions, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, it make them kind of suck everything up. And if you don't deal with it one way, it'll come out another way, right? If you know, maybe ball, if you have to go by yourself someplace and think about it and ball, you need to do that. Because a lot of men have a lot of pent up anger that they can't seem to get rid of.
Mm-hmm.
And it just takes that one person to come and say the wrong thing. It's like that powder cake,
Mm-hmm.
and boom, you start to react, and a lot of time in a negative way. So, it's like one of the example, one of the ways that I think a lot of people can or should manage your emotion is find out what makes you tick. I mean, nature is a good release for me because this morning I'm here by the river and water is very calming to me, you know. So maybe a lot of people um, need to go to nature and release some of that anger, you know, just by walking through the woods. The water themselves absorb a lot of negative things, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's so interesting that you made a point about men holding a lot of anger. Do you really think that's anger, or is it that society has created a blueprint of masculine behavior in which, you know, they're not allowed to express sadness? It seems like when you look in the world, a lot of times, if a guy starts to feel, oh, I feel depressed, I feel sad, oh, you're a girl, you know, you're a wuss. So they kind of have to suppress it. And sometimes through psychology and yeah, through psychology, it said that, you know, anger sometimes isn't anger per se. It's just that you weren't allowed to express sadness. So it had to transform into something else for you to be able to acknowledge it. And
Mm-hmm.
then some, I feel like a lot of times with the men, you're not allowed to express, um, you can't be too happy because nobody likes a giddy man. You can't be sad. What's the only emotion that it seems like men are quote unquote allowed to give free rein to? Well, two emotions really. It's lust and anger.
And the two of them, the way they lead to the same, eh, maybe I shouldn't say that, but when you're, I think a lot of men that, I guess, through lust or sexuality, they release a lot of their anger through that, you know. Um, they, I think maybe that's one of the areas that, I don't know, I want to go there.
I, I I think I kind of see where you're going with it. Like it's not healthy
Uh,
because, you know,
it, it's not, but I think, huh, well, that's a rough one. Man, I'm not sure to answer that one either.
okay, well, if you want to just move on to the next point,
Yeah.
that's fine. Um, so society plays a large role, I feel, in how people on a whole, but specifically men, black men, um, tap into and express their emotions. How do you
Hmm.
feel? I mean, we can compare different societies, traditional societies versus Western societies. How do you think maybe each society helps or hinders the emotional health of Black men?
Uh, I think historically, or maybe when we come to this Western hemisphere, um, we weren't allowed to display any emotions to the things that was happening to us, right? We couldn't even protect our own women. And I think because of that as well, it kind of make the black man in a way um, bury their emotion. Because if you can imagine, you're supposed to be the protector, the provider, and all of that is stripped away from you. You know, you're looking for somebody else, or your woman is looking for somebody else to be their protector. Black men were never had the chance, anyways, to be that protector. Um, so, you know, I'm mixing up everything.
No, go through with your train of thoughts.
Hmm. So, I think because of that, we battle a lot of times with a lot of emotions that white people don't have, maybe Chinese or Indian or any other race have, you know. I think that is a heavy burden on a lot of Black men, and I don't think we really um, examine it deeply, you know. It makes us react in very negative ways. A lot of us still, it's like we're stuck in that boyhood stage, you know. Um, I don't know. It caused us, it stunted our growth in a lot of different ways, eh?
Mm-hmm.
That if we don't really analyze it, it can have a lot of detrimental effect on us when we reach manhood and how we nurture our young boys, you know?
And how would you, because all of these learned behaviors of emotional suppression in Black men, it starts in childhood, right? How
Yeah.
how would you, yeah, let's just kind of delve into that a little bit. I mean, you're a man and you have sons. You were once a boy. How how did, you don't have to go like too personally or too deep into it, but how did you in growing up, were you able to be more in touch with your emotions? And if not, if so, are you raising your son differently?
Yeah. I think as you get older, you start to examine your life, you know? It's like when you have children and you haven't matured. It's like you're not raising a son, you're raising a friend. Because I was young when I had my first son, and there was a lot of things that I still had to work out in my mind because I feel that we never get enough nurturing as far as a young boy goes, you know. So my son, the younger one now, I make sure um, I give him more freedom to express himself, not come say anything to me, mind you know, as far as him can come and say anything to me, but it's the way him say it. I try to leave that door open so him can come and discuss whatever is on his mind with me, but in a respectful way,
Mm-hmm.
because um, I think it's very important to, you know, analyze yourself and your life and the mistakes that you make or you think was made to you. You can actually try to correct some of those behaviors because in your son or in my son, because I think there's a saying that says, the sins of the father visit the first, something like they visit up to the third generation or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So this emotional trauma that we come into this life with, as far as, you know, with the Black man, we can keep it perpetuated all the way down to our great great grandchildren. So if we really love our future grandchildren, we really have to take a look within ourselves and correct some of those behaviors that we look at, that we see as negative. Because when you look extra generation down the road, you want your grandsons to be very emotionally rounded. Eh?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think it also, what you're describing, raising your youngest, my youngest brother,
Hmm?
is emotional safety and creating a space of emotional safety, you know? I remember there's a picture of you and Ayele. I think you weren't really scolding him per se, but I think he probably didn't do something he was supposed to do, and you're kind of giving him a little talking to. Nothing too stern because he was about between 14 and something, and he's sitting on your lap. He's 12, 14. He's sitting on your lap, kind of just lounging, you know, and you've got your arm around the back of his shoulders because he's kind of lounging across you, and you're talking to him, and you're pointing somewhere, but it just proved that you had created such a space within the household, even with me, that we feel very comfortable to come and talk to you. You know, Yale isn't feeling happy about something, or I'm, sad or whatever. Nobody feels any way to withhold their emotions from you. And I feel like a lot of people don't get that. A lot of sons don't get that. So,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you've already laid the groundwork of creating an emotionally grounded um, young man, because even I'm watching him even interfacing with his female friends. You know, there's not that, he doesn't feel that need to, what's the word, posture too much, you know?
Mm-hmm.
He's pretty grounded. He's very grounded, and he also seems to be able to identify when, some things aren't right, and he's not going to stand for it. And I feel like one of the things that the opposite creates is it's either that you're going to be a very bullying man because you always have to be braggadocious and, you know, push up yourself in order to hide your more tender emotions, or you're going to be a pushover so that you not cause no effects, you know? My brother's
Mm-hmm.
neither of those things. And I feel like you did a good job in
Oh,
that regard.
thank you.
You're welcome.
But I think it's building that confidence in that person. I think when you're confident, you don't have to um you don't have to put on all that tough guy image because you're confident within your own self. Most of the people that put on that tough guy image, I believe they're trying to keep people off of them, because they're really afraid. They're um not confident within themselves, you know. I think a lot of the young boys nowadays, they're afraid of being hurt,
Mm-hmm.
you know, not being good enough for something. So they have to put on this tough exterior. So when the next male look at them and say, "Oh boy, the man that one tough man, and bad man, so me have to keep away." But
Mm-hmm.
most of those bad men, so-called bad men, are it's like a little scared boy inside of them, you know. Most bullies don't pick on another bully, Them pick on somebody who them figure them have strength over, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Because a bully would never pick on somebody that them think they might lose a fight to. Yeah. But me glad Ayele is confident in him own self, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, it's good to have that from a very young age because all that battle that you have when you become a man would be less, you know.
Yeah.
And if you show your child love, them can show it to another, when they have children.
Mm-hmm.
I think most of the men nowadays, them have this kind of mask on, that they really don't show any emotions, you know. Yeah. And it's sad because everybody have to be tough. You don't really get to see the person for themselves a lot of times, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
As you speak about him, there's another point with Ayala that I wanted to bring up, and it links to creating safe emotional spaces for Black men. And it kind of ties into, systems, um, community-based systems, small systems, family systems that support emotional well-being, because Ayala is not going to, and I don't think anyone should go and tell all their problems to just any random person on the road. But you need to be able to talk to somebody, and you need to be able
Mm-hmm.
to talk to someone you trust, and you need to be able to identify trustworthy and non-trustworthy people. So Ayala's got a
Mm-hmm.
good circle of not as many peers, but more older people like myself and such. Um,
Mm-hmm.
that he can talk to. I remember
Mm-hmm.
Yele was going through a little something, and he was talking to Orlando, and they were discussing it, and he gave him some advice, but Ayala felt comfortable enough and identified this as a safe person for him to come to, and wasn't ridiculed for it, wasn't said, "Oh, you're soft," and it was about a girl, and it he wasn't made to feel like he was being a simp or being, you know, too soft or anything like that. And the person then said to him, you have to be kind, but you also have to protect your own emotional well-being. And I feel like
Mm-hmm.
this whole discussion, for example, it's kind of just to segue, but there's this discussion about men being soft, especially in relation to women. And if a man is going to, wine and dine, flowers and chocolate, he's a sip. To express his love and his admiration for a woman is nowadays kind of considered a faux pas, because you don't want to be a simp. You don't want to be, a girl clone. But I feel like if you are emotionally regulated, you can be a strong man and still don't be a doting husband or boyfriend. But you also have to be able to identify, and this comes as I feel like a part of emotional intelligence, is that woman dote worthy? You cannot
Mm-hmm.
throw pearls to swine,
Mm-hmm. That's
because
very true.
she's the type of woman who will clone you, she does not deserve the wine and the chocolate.
But I think you have to set up boundaries around yourself, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're gonna do so much, but you don't you don't allow yourself to be drawn across your boundaries because a lot of time the woman herself is having issues,
Mm-hmm.
and I think maybe they have been socialized to, well, here in Jamaica a lot, to the first thing, one of the things that you want to get from a man is money,
Mm-hmm.
and you'll do anything to get that money, right? So you might see a young girl and she's, you think you like her and stuff like that, but she can be very manipulative in a way. So you really got to look out for that sort of thing. Not that you're gonna build a wall around yourself,
Mm-hmm.
but you just got to be aware of certain things, right? And it's good
Discernment.
that Ayele you know, had that emotional support that him can go to a older person and seek some advice. Because a lot of time, people maybe in the same peer is of the same age, so that experience isn't there because they're looking for guidance themselves too.
And I think the biggest thing is that not only looking to appear, but a safe space that of a like mind, of a of a mind of emotional safety. Because he could have gone to an older man and man say, why, you know, Ray, and draw him down the wrong path. But
Yeah.
I feel like that links right back into my last question. Systems for Black men to safeguard their emotional health. And I feel like one of the things that is helpful is physical activity, and also those circles, those men's circles. You mentioned that you go into the woods, go into the water, and you just chill and release, you know?
I would like to see, some kind of a group in a way. There's a lot of things, as you say, physical activity, just to get some group of young boys, young men and stuff like that, and go for a hike and, bring some food. There's places along the way that you can stop and have lunch and have a slight discussion around it. Not that you're going to lecture them, but a lot of time it's asking the right questions to a lot of young people so them can actually start to think about things, not to react to it so much, but to really ask themselves some of those important questions. It's not about beating yourself up. It's about thinking,
and
because a lot of,
and holding space.
Yeah.
So before we end, do you have any words you'd like to leave with our viewers?
I think maybe to be patient with the men folk, I think there's a lot of stuff that we still are working out. And if we don't have grounded emotional men, you can't have a grounded emotional society, right? So we have a big role to play, but we're trying. We're trying to overcome some of these things, trying to correct some of these things from the past, Slowly but surely we'll be getting there, or we will get there. Yeah, that's all I have to say.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for being here, Daddy.
Okay, you're welcome.
And thanks for giving me a really great brother.
Yeah. You are a great daughter too. The tone is like the greatest gift, eh? And I'm not saying that.
Shucks. All right. This has been the Black Men's Redemption.
All right. Later.
This has been another episode of the Black Men's Redemption. If you have any questions or comments or want to pose a new topic, leave a message for us on one of our podcasting platforms, or leave a comment or direct message at our Instagram at Black Men's Redemption. We'd like to thank our guests for their contributions and our listeners for their questions. Now is the time for healing. Let it begin.